Hi everyone! So, does anyone remember when I said this? So I was thinking about doing a modern one as well and then comparing them. Let me know if you'd like to see that. Well, today I am keeping my word. Let's build Central Perk. So before I get into it, I am so excited to tell you that this video is sponsored by Wrebbit, the company that makes these 3D puzzles. My family has been doing Puzz3Ds for years, like since the 90s. And as you've seen, my sister Katie has a huge collection of them. So to be able to work directly with them is so exciting. Also, I don't think I've actually done a modern Wrebbit3D puzzle yet, so I'm gonna be really interested to see how this compares to the vintage ones that I've already shown on this channel. Okay, here it is. Look at how fun that is. So we have a close-up of Central Perk, what we're going to be building. We also have a further away view of the entire apartment building. This is going to be 440 pieces, so not super difficult, kind of like a medium level puzzle. So here's a look at all of the sides. Again, just kind of giving the same information. And then here's the back. So you know how they used to have 360 photos of what you're building right here on the box? Well, now they have gone digital. So I'm going to show you the interactive build instructions once I get to that part. First, let's open it up. I haven't opened it yet, so I don't know exactly what we have in here. Ooh, okay. So it looks like we have some instructions, which I don't think I'm gonna look at quite yet. And then we have the pieces just loose in here. I didn't show it, I cut them ahead of time, but the box was closed by these stickers, so it's not like this was gonna fly open and the pieces would go everywhere. Well, that looks like a 3D puzzle for sure. These pieces feel so crisp. I feel like they've changed the foam a little bit. Later on in the video, I'll do a full comparison of the pieces, but it feels really nice. Oh look, I found Central Perk. That is so cute. The one thing that I'll say is that there are kind of a lot of freebies, which is pieces that come out of the box already together. But I think that's just the nature of cutting puzzle pieces out of this really thick foam, and they are very easy to separate. So as I do the flipping and the sorting, I'm just gonna take these apart as I go. And then I just want to say, before I get started, unlike some of the other licensed property puzzles that I've done on this channel, I have seen Friends. I have seen the entire show, but I only watched it the first time that it was put onto one of the streaming sites. And then, you know, I watched the entire thing within a couple months. But it wasn't one that I watched when it was airing because, like, I remember people talking about it when it was airing, but the finale aired when I was 13. So I was a little young for it at the time, but then when I finally watched it, I was just like, oh my gosh, now I have context for all of these iconic cultural moments. Okay, I finished the sorting and that took 20 minutes. So I did these black pieces, which might be the roof, the pavement. We have the green central perk. We have this, I think that's the top of this like beige brick pieces. Oh, down here, this is fun. We have all the little extras like the street lamps and the friends themselves. Then we have all the red dot pieces. And then over here, a whole bunch of red brick pieces, which maybe I could have sorted a little more from the really light ones to the darker ones, but I'll get to that later. All right, we are an hour and a half into it, and let me show you what I've been doing. So obviously, I've been building these building segments the way you're supposed to, but I've also been assembling them back into the flat sheet. So basically what this means is taking the red dot pieces and using the bleed that comes out onto them to rearrange all of the pieces back into how they were originally printed. Now, to be totally clear, this is not recommended by or endorsed by Wrebbit. In fact, this is going exactly against the official instructions. This is just something that my sister Katie started doing a couple years ago, and it's a way to get an extra jigsaw puzzle out of this 3D puzzle. Because you really can use the red dot pieces just as funny shaped puzzle pieces. Especially when you have curves like this, it becomes very easy to match them back up. When you have, you know, just the square edges, it becomes a little harder, but as I said, you can use the bleed of the pattern to figure out exactly how this was originally printed. So Wrebbit actually sent me this exclusive video showing the entire process of how these puzzles are made. And you can really see how they do print an entire puzzle as one flat sheet. As someone who loves behind the scenes videos like this, I just think it is so cool to see this entire process. And I kind of feel like reassembling it back into this flat sheet is sort of another way to appreciate all of the design and engineering that goes into making these puzzles. Because this is work that otherwise would just be lost and would never be seen again and would not be appreciated. But it is a lot of work to figure out the most efficient way to print all of these segments onto one sheet. So I'm gonna keep working on that. The next thing I have to do is to finally solve all of the red segments, because you can see here that needs to be filled in here, over here, pretty much everywhere else that I'm going from this flat sheet is gonna be one of those segments. So I have to get those solved. And I need to find this puzzle piece. It's been driving me crazy, but it's gonna be so satisfying when I get that in place. Oh man, look at how cool that looks. This is just so satisfying to look at. So looking at it a little bit closer, you might have noticed this piece is missing, but it's just a red dot piece. It's not an actual puzzle piece, so no issues there. Okay, wait, I have a correction. I was looking at this again and I was like, that is so weird. Why would there just be one missing piece out of this whole sheet? So I pulled out the box again to double check, and sure enough, what is hiding in there? So if you get one of these puzzles, just make sure that you check under all of these flaps. There we go. Now she's finished. So I am going to remove all of the red dot pieces and, build Central Perk. But first, I just wanted to share a couple interesting things that I learned while researching this video. So first, Puzz3Ds were made from 1991 to 2005 by the company Wrebbit Inc. Then there was actually a break until 2012 when the company was reformed by former employees as Wrebbit Puzzles Inc. And so these new ones are Wrebbit3D puzzles, not Puzz3D anymore. And then going back to 1991, I just never really thought about where Puzz3Ds came from. You know, for me, growing up in the 90s, they just always existed. But I found this really long and detailed article from the New York Times from 1997, and I learned so much stuff. So the company was started by Paul E. Gallant in Montreal, Canada, but he didn't have any background in toys. He just worked distributing music records. But in 1989, he decided to change careers, and he wanted to come up with a new type of jigsaw puzzle. Specifically, he wanted to figure out how to make a 3D jigsaw puzzle. So he tried a few different ways for how to do it. Obviously, your traditional cardboard isn't going to stand up the way you would need it to for a 3D puzzle. But eventually, he landed on foam, and this is such a classic story of an inventor sitting at his kitchen table, experimenting, and then one day he's just like, Eureka! I've got it! Like, this could be a movie. So he partnered with Renee Bennett, and they raised the startup money, but then they had to come up with a name for the company. And they looked at different regional flowers and animals, but for 2 months, they just couldn't come up with anything. But then Paul Gallant made a joke that they would have to call themselves the Frogs, which was a derogatory term for French people in Montreal, Canada. So they ended up going with Wrebbit, which is a take on the sound that frogs make. So they took this derogatory term and they reclaimed it and turned it into a symbol for ingenuity and craftsmanship. So, okay, they knew that the Canadian market was not big enough for their idea. So from the beginning, they were looking at exporting to other countries, and they had their eyes on FAO Schwarz, which at the time was the toy store to get your product into. So in 1991, Paul Gallant drove to New York for a 2 p.m. meeting, but he ended up having to wait until 7 p.m. But he waited that whole time until finally he was able to show his sample puzzle. He literally picked it up and threw it in the air, and it all stayed together. And there's literally dialogue for our movie. The buyer said, "Wow, where did you get that?" And then immediately placed an order. So since then, Wrebbit just continued to grow. They released hundreds of puzzles, including mini kids puzzles and even a computer game. Personally, my family started getting Puzz3Ds in 1997. My mom would order them out of the Bits and Pieces catalog. And looking back through our family photos, in so many photos, you can just see Puzz3Ds in the background. Like, they were just always around when I was growing up. Okay, so I'm gonna get to the assembly in just a minute, but one more thing really quick. So the other thing that I am obsessed with is that at trade shows, they would make giant Puzz3Ds for display. They made an Orient Express, a Formula One car, and the Titanic. For the Orient Express, they made the inside of the train car as well, including all the furniture. Even the people were made out of Puzz3D. Which is a little creepy, I'm not gonna lie. But I love this so much. They also have this footage of these big events where they would assemble the entire thing, and you can see them actually putting together the puzzle pieces of each section and then you know, building up the entire thing. I wish I could have seen those in person. Like, that is incredible. All right, it is a brand new day. I always like to take a little bit of a break between the jigsaw and the building. I was on a break. So the first thing to do today is to finally follow the instructions and put away all of the red dot pieces. Okay, so this puzzle comes with 35 different sections that we're going to be assembling, and it still comes with the regular instructions that you can definitely just follow along with, but they also now have full color online interactive instructions. So let's take a look. So first we can see the 360 views of what it is we're going to be building. Then this is the part that I didn't want to look at ahead of time. We can see all of these individual sections, which you saw I now have separated out, just like in this flat lay that they have. Okay, step 1. So it tells us exactly which sections we're gonna need, and we have this little diagram of how they all fit together. But if you click follow along, it actually takes you to a YouTube video where you can see the exact step being done. So it's pretty much impossible to do it wrong with this resource. Also, if you just want like a nice video to fall asleep to, these assembly videos are free for anyone to watch online, and they're just so relaxing. All right, so what was step 1? So I'm gonna need the base, and it's gonna be facing this way. I also need these two, and I need this one. Something quick that I just want to note is that anytime you have a piece like this that's going through cutout holes like this, you just want to make sure that it goes through nice and cleanly. Sometimes this foam can get a little scrunched up and then not sit in there very nicely. So just make sure that the full thing is through. So that one went together very easily. Okay, so right here, this piece went on fine, but then I had so much trouble with this little section of the roof. You can see me checking the instructions multiple times, and I was just like, pivot, pivot, pivot! Although, unlike Ross and his couch, I did get it in place in the end. Okay, well, the song ended, so I'm just gonna narrate the rest. All of these little pieces are so satisfying, and I love the details, like this eave on the side of the building. The awning was a little tricky since it needs to sit at an angle, and I don't know if I got the angle quite right. I might go back and adjust that a little. But here I'm just attaching the last side, and I had to flip the whole thing over to get the leverage to get those last connectors in place. But luckily, you can just reach inside down at the bottom, which is really helpful if there's anything else that you need to adjust. So all that's left is the taxi cab, which can go zooming by. And of course, the friends, who in this photo, I guess are on their way to a wedding? I guess you can get coffee before going to a wedding. And that's the whole puzzle. That was so fun. All right, well, what do you guys think? Now, in terms of 3D puzzles, this one was pretty simple, but I do love all of the little details that they added. So my total time for this whole puzzle was just over 3 hours. But wait, something that's really fun about this puzzle is that it's in scale with the Wrebbit Urbania series. These are individual puzzles that are all in scale with each other to make a city block. And now you can add in Central Perk to expand the city. So Wrebbit sent these to me with the sections already put together, and I just assembled them into the 3D buildings. But I'm definitely going to be fully taking them apart and redoing them because I just love puzzles like these. But just to be clear, all of the Urbania puzzles and Central Perk are all sold separately. So, okay, here's the real question. How does this hold up to the vintage Puzz3Ds? As I said before, I think they changed the foam a little bit, but it really didn't bother me at all. This new foam still felt exactly like a Puzz3D. And when I was doing the jigsaw, I did notice a few tiny flaws, like where a piece got a little smushed or part of the sticker was coming up. But if you remember the issues that I had with the Monopoly puzzle, this one was in far better condition overall. I mean, we talk about how things just feel so cheap these days, like clothing and appliances. It feels like stuff was way better made back in the day. But I'm so happy that that is not at all the case here. This is just as high quality as any other Puzz3D. Like, I'm so impressed by this. Oh, and also, so my sister Katie prefers to collect the puzzles that are of real buildings versus like fictional or generic places. But I feel like this one would fit into her collection because technically this is a real building. Like, Central Perk is obviously fictional, but the establishing shot from the show was of a real apartment building in New York City. So Katie and I can debate it, but I'm just gonna say I think this counts. So, okay, as you can tell, my family and I have been big fans of Puzz3D and now Wrebbit3D for a long time. Katie has a whole stack of them that she hasn't done yet, and she does one every Christmas, while I work on my own puzzle because she doesn't let me help. But these are so well engineered, and it really is a true 3D jigsaw puzzle, not just an assembly kit. So this one was kind of a medium difficulty, but some of them get much more complicated, so there's a big range of difficulties that you can go with. And when you're working on it, you can tailor the difficulty too, either by following really closely with the instructions, or by just jumping into it and not looking at the pictures at all. Also, I wanted to note that you definitely can do these multiple times because nothing is glued together. When I was a kid, I had a bunch of the mini puzzles, and I would just take them apart and redo them over and over and over again. So these days, a lot of the new ones that they're releasing are licensed properties. So if you're a fan of Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, even Batman, like, there are just so many puzzles for you to choose from. I think this would be the perfect holiday activity for your whole family to work on together, or a really good gift for anyone who likes engineering and building things. So if you want to try one of these for yourself, you can head to Wrebbit3dpuzzle.com. And as always, I'm of course going to have a discount code for you. So all of the info for that will be down in the description and in the pinned comment down below. So a huge thank you to Wrebbit for sponsoring this video. Your code word for the comments will be to tell me who is your favorite character from Friends. I guess it doesn't have to be one of the 6 friends. Could be anyone. All right, well, that's all I've got for today, so I'll see you in the next one.